Hello, my name is Subhash, and in this video I'm going to highlight some of the scenarios when you can undertake the biorisk assessment. So when the research activities are going on, there will be always risk to the individuals, surrounding community and the environment. So understanding the risk is very important, and for the risk assessment, you have to make sure that you have the relevant information for the risk assessment. So this video will be useful to the students, principal investigators and adult learners and anyone who is interested in learning more about biorisk management. So when you are doing the biorisk management, this biorisk assessment is the first step to gather the information about what type of the threats are there, what types of the hazards are there, because this biorisk assessment helps you to identify or to determine the hazards and threats in the laboratory or in the scenario. And for this purpose, you need to have the accurate information to determine the risk in that situation. Generally, the risk assessment should be performed or reviewed at least annually. However, the activities or events that will change the risk environment and that warrants the reassessment, these are some of the examples. Okay, so for example, you are bringing new infectious agents in the laboratory. So before bringing the new infectious agents or their derivatives or toxins, you need to do the biorisk assessment, because new risk will be there when you are bringing the infectious agents. Then another scenario, you are bringing new animal species into the facility or laboratory, or maybe normally you are working on the rabbits, but you decided to work on the monkeys or another model organism. So in that case, the risk will be different, and that's why you should do the risk assessment. Then another scenario, change in the procedures or practices. So when you are changing the procedures or protocols, so in that case, the risk reassessment needs to be done. Another scenario is when you are bringing the new equipment into the laboratory. So when you are bringing new equipments into the laboratory, all the personnel, those are using this equipment, should be trained and should be familiar with the safety aspects of the equipment. And for this purpose, this risk assessment should be done when you are having high-end equipments into the laboratory or new equipments in the laboratory. Then change in personnel. So this one is important, because time to time into the laboratory, students will come from the other institutions, or trainees will come as an industrial trainee or as a summer trainee. So during that time, these people are not well trained, so you have to make sure that risk assessment is done properly and the situation is handled properly. And for this purpose, you have to do the risk assessment. Then another scenario is a change in the materials. So for example, you are changing the brand of the PPE, personal protective equipment, or maybe you are changing the micropipettes. So in that case, also you have to do the risk assessment. Then maybe you are having some old equipments into the laboratory, so that one can also pose the risk into the laboratory while the work and activities are going into the laboratory. So that's why risk assessment needs to be done. Other situation or other scenarios, advancement in scientific understanding. So science and technology is moving with a great pace, and what is relevant today may not be accurate tomorrow. So for this reason, the time to time, the risk assessment should be done based on the current information or the latest scientific information. Then relocation or relocation. So when you are moving from the interim laboratory to the permanent laboratory campus or permanent lab. So in that case also you have to do the risk assessment. Another scenario when you are having lab acquired infections or you are having an accident in the laboratory, so you need to review the risk assessment or you have to do the reassessment of the risk. Then another scenario is theft. So if biological agents, some files are missing or some containers of the toxins are missing or biological agents, their derivatives are missing. So in that case it's a security violation and you have to do the risk assessment so you can see how you can mitigate the risk and how you can deal with that one. And another situation is changes in local infrastructure. So for example, maybe in your location there is frequent blackouts. So in case, for example, if you are doing work into the working using biosafety cabinet and suddenly there is no electricity or power failure, then there is a possibility you may get exposed to the biological agents and it can result into the lab acquired infection. So that type of the local changes in local infrastructure, including water or road or electricity, all this needs to be considered. Then another scenario is changes at the national or regional or local environment or the security environment to be precise. So if the situation is not very secure in your location because of conflict or because of war or because of fighting or maybe because of natural disaster. So you have to natural disaster including the floods or the earthquake or other similar type of the disasters. So in that case also you have to do the reassessment of the biorisk and you will be able to determine the hazards and threats. And in addition to that one, any other situation or any other changes that one creates or brings in new hazards or maybe threats. So in that case, you should do the risk assessment. Okay, to summarize, so when the lab work is going on in the laboratory, there will be always a risk to the individuals in the laboratory, then surrounding community as well as to the environment. So for this purpose, you should not take the biosafety and biosecurity lightly, and time to time when the situation warrants, you should do the reassessment of the biorisk assessment, and at least annually it should be done. However, depends on the situation. Some of the examples I have given here, so it depends on the situation, so it can be done time to time in or when the new project is going to be started. So the principal investigator as well as the team should do the risk assessment, and risk mitigation can be done properly when all the hazards and threats are determined properly, and that one will help to take the right or appropriate control measures, and it can help to mitigate the risk. So thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Take care.